Okay, so it's a little after 10. I was up around 8. I'm going to try to get some um, answer on this before I eat. I'll probably let it sit while I eat and come back to it after. The when I first turned the machine on, or sorry, the machine was already on when I first just launched the audio from the M Audio device. It had faded down. Um, and closing FooBar and reopening it didn't fix it the same way that it did with the Sound Blaster. So that indicates to me that there's something more fundamental going on with the M Audio card than there is with the Sound Blaster card. I mean, I can just reset the drivers in FooBar and I get the right proper sound on the Sound Blaster. That doesn't work for the M Audio. So and flipping directly back to the Sound Blaster got me with the right tone again. So I've just disabled the M Audio card altogether. Um, I didn't uninstall the drivers. I'm still hoping I can use it through ASIO. But well, I probably won't be able to use it through ASIO with it disabled. But I disabled the Windows part of it, and then I disabled the device on top of it. So I'm gonna see if that's enough. It should be. But I'm testing it through the Sound Blaster. Um, First to see if it fades, and I don't expect it to fade. And then I guess I'll let it sit, something to eat, and then come back and see if it's still stable. If it's still stable, I'll just go ahead and install the Alesis drivers and go from there. If it's not, then I'll actually have to reinstall the M-Audio drivers and then go from there. Well, I mean uninstall the M-Audio drivers and then see if it's still stable or if I have to go back to the start and redo this all over again. So this is intriguing. What I had done was I had gone to each of these devices in the M-Audio and I had disabled them. So all of them, which I would think would mean that I couldn't launch, I couldn't use the devices at all. However, when I restarted, I noticed that this came up here like this. Now, this has the following driver. Well, it's WDM odd.sys. I actually deleted the driver because it was coming up with an exclamation part anyways. And the audio worked. But stranger than that, disabling it here with the M Audio also disabled it with the Creative, which I did not intend, indicating that that's linked somehow, and that turning off that there turns it off here. Something else that's strange is that if I run this, which should bring up the mixer, it tells me I have no active mixer devices. And if I go into here, sorry, it's the wrong, if I go into here, it tells me I have no audio device installed. This is actually what I want. I want to completely bypass the Windows fuckery. And now, at this point, launching it through either sound card sounds good. So so the Sound Blaster is mostly for the MIDI. It turns out I'm probably going to need to turn that on to use the MIDI. I don't really think I'm going to be using the MIDI through the Sound Blaster at any point in the near future, so I'm okay with just turning that off. The M Audio is more just for output. Ideally, I'd like to just use that device. But if I can get sound while turning this off, I think that might be the answer. So, because I think this is what might be screwing with it. So I'm going to actually restart again with this disabled completely and with both cards running. And then I'm gonna load it up with the Sound Blaster on the restart and go through the testing from there and see what happens. I kind of half expect that this might actually not load, although I'm not sure why it would load this time and not the other time. What I want is I just want the stream to play without Windows interfering with it. Um, because something that Windows is doing, whether it's a sample rate conversion, or I think it's upsampling it. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to prevent it from upsampling it. Hopefully this is the kind of fix that I've been hoping for. Yeah, that wasn't as useful as hoped. I actually got some fading on the Sound Blaster, and when I switched over, it was just flat, and it stayed flat. So I've just disabled the audio card altogether. I'm rebooting. Check to see if it stays stable, and if it does, let it sit. Come back, reinstall the Alesis. It looks like I'm taking the audio right out. I don't really see a function for it. I mean, it was useful as a secondary out, but if it's fucking up the machine, then it's gone. So it actually became apparent very quickly that I was fading with just the Sound Blaster. So I have wiped the audio out completely and disabled it. Let's see if that's enough, or if I've got to do the reinstall on the devices again. So I've got my first strawberry rhubarb smoothie here, so that makes it bananas, strawberries, rhubarb, cherry ice cream, and vanilla soy. And it's you get the same kind of texture that you'd get if you put pineapple in, which is kind of like there's that. It's not as smooth because I guess the rhubarb is kind of woody. I can't really honestly taste much of it. Besides that, there's maybe a bit of like a herby feel to it almost. But it's faint. I don't think the rhubarb is going to substantially add to the nutritiousness of this meal, so I would have to conclude that adding rhubarb to the smoothie is essentially a waste of money. It was worth a shot, though. Strawberry rhubarb is a delicious thing. I suppose there's a possibility I haven't put enough in. I portioned them out into these Tupperware containers. To be frank, I didn't check to see if that was one of the more or less, but I'll check that over the week and see if different proportions make a difference. But I don't really taste much of a difference at all, except for the difference in texture, which is actually not particularly good. So yeah, I'd conclude that adding rhubarb to the smoothie was not worth it. But I've got them in there, so I'll use them up. Okay, it's 20 to 5. I let this sit for a good while, and it seems to be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and install the mixer drivers. It seems to have come up good on the first reboot anyways. We'll see how long it stays there for. But I need to draw attention to the driver that came up with the exclamation point. It was WinMM WDM audio compatibility or something like that. I disabled it. And now it looks like I probably got the same problem that I would have with any of these things. As soon as you disable any of these drivers, they disappear and they never come back. It's probably just because I've completely demoed the system. I don't know, maybe if I uninstalled a whole bunch of stuff it might reappear, but as far as I can see, I have no functioning Windows audio system. There's no mixers. And if I go to the here, I have no audio device. Now, reality is that when this was there, it wasn't working. So it can only get better, kind of thing. But I want to keep an eye on this. If it actually works, then I probably want to work that into the script to actually delete that driver. In the meantime, let's see if this is stable or not. I am trying it through WDM. I have no attachment to that. Or, well, actually, let me rephrase that. I do now actually have to have an attachment to this because I've disabled the M-Audio card. So this is my playback, so I can't really disable that. I was blaming it on this before. I don't, or the inability to split it or something. It seems to have been more of a conflict with the other card, but I'm still verifying that. Let's hope that this stays stable. So that's hilarious. In disabling the Windows mixer, I ended up I can't use Cool Edit because I can't connect to anything. Something I'll have to fix before I'm probably gonna have to reinstall eventually, but I want to finish this project first. And it does seem stable right now. So I'm just gonna go ahead and work with ASIO. That's actually what I'm doing. I'm just verifying the first track came out the same way, and it did. Moving on to the second one, and I think I'm okay to move forward. We'll see if some other problem develops. Unfortunately, it faded again. I'm gonna have to try disabling the Sound Blaster card altogether. I don't really have any other options. Okay, I think I finally got it stable. It's a shitty solution. I had to uninstall the WDM for the mixer because it was doing the same thing. I've completely disabled the WDM. I've completely disabled the Sound Blaster altogether, and I've completely disabled the M-Audio. So the only thing running right now is the ASIO on the Alesis mixer. And it seems like it's finally just flat. Hopefully this is enough to actually finish mixing this record. It means I don't have a monitor on this machine right now, which is frustrating, but it can be dealt with if it means finishing this first. And then afterwards, I'll have to figure out where to go from there. If I'm going to go down this route, I'm actually just going to turn the whole, I'm going to disable the Windows audio altogether so that it doesn't interfere at all, and just deal straight with Cubase and ASIO, and that's it for now. And then once this is done, and there's only a couple of, I really only have a couple of tracks left to do after I can verify that what I had was right. I am learning that the second track that I did, The Aliens Are More Likely Than God, it was mixed on a flat system. That's why I turned the treble way up, was because it was flat. It wasn't that I mixed it with it up, it was that I wasn't hearing it right. So I'm going to have to, I think I do like it better with the higher, but I'm going to listen to it a whole bunch of times to make sure. This will also act as a verification on the system being stable. So I may end up re-uploading the original of this, but I think I do like it better higher. I just need to be sure of that. Anyways, I think I'm back on track finally. Even if there's no monitor here, I should be able to get a little bit of work done over the next couple of days. See, this is totally indicative of the circles that I've been spinning around in for months. I noticed that it was still fading out of ASIO with all of the WDMs turned off. So I reset the headphone jack and it seemed to reset the signal. I've changed the plug on it. I don't know if it's going to make a long-term difference. I don't know. I thought I had fixed that authoritatively. Maybe I switched it without realizing it. I don't know. But I mean, that was one of the first things. One of the first vlogs was trying to isolate the headphone. It just have I wasted the last several days? Was there a driver issue? Was it the headphone? Well, I don't think it was the headphones. Was it the headphone jack? I have not been able to determine why it is that I cannot get a straight signal for months. And this is what is driving me nuts. If I could figure out what the hell the problem is, I could probably easily fix it. But I cannot, with any certainty, determine what the problem is. Right now, I care less about determining what the problem is, and I care more about finishing the project. So I'm not going to restart anything or go through any process of turning on other cards. I noticed it was fading. I swapped the headphone jack out. It seems to be better. And I also ended up switching from. I moved it from the receiver to the output there, right on the mixer, because I was trying to get out of that signal chain. So, it seems to be better. I'll stick with that for as long as it's better. And if something else fades out, I'll try something else. I've really it is really honestly a signal coming from Cubase through ASIO out in the direct out to the headphones. There's not a lot of possible signal breaks at this point. So, I mean, I didn't close anything. I didn't reset any drivers. I just changed the headphone jack, and it really did make the difference in the fade. So, if that's stable, then great. But I mean, I'm very skeptical. I've just spent several more days trying to figure out what the hell, and I'm still really no closer to figuring out what the hell. But I'm gonna just keep sticking with this, and every time I find a problem, I'll see if I can try to fix it to make it to sound better. And hopefully, as I go through this process over the next few days, I'm able to find a way to make it stable and then slowly work the complexities back in later. Right now, I don't care. Right now, I just want to finish this stupid project, quit smoking, get my estrogen dosage up, and move forward. Finding the ideal solution is just not of any interest to me at all. I'm just functioning entirely pragmatically to finish this fucking stupid project that was supposed to take a week of songs that are 20 years old and that I haven't cared about in 20 years, just for completion purposes, to, to move the fuck on. If I had a spare head, I'd be smashing it against the wall. Unfortunately, I've only got one, but I don't know. I, I have no further comment. So it's a little after midnight, about a half an hour ago. I popped what I thought was a pimple on my chin, um, which started bleeding profusely. There's actually quite a bit in the toilet as well. Um, which opened itself up to reveal an ingrown hair. Um, Let me change my focus here. Now, that little fucker might not look so big, but you see how it's curved around like that? That means it was like basically growing inside my chin. So I didn't pull a hair that size out of my chin the way you would expect. A hair that size fell out of my chin as it was growing circular, over that surface area. I'm gonna feel that tomorrow. There's a shot of it there. Let's see here if I can see this. I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not, but actually I've got a sec. Yeah, let me Yeah, I tried a few things and decided you weren't going to be able to see it, but there's basically a hole in my chin. It's about that big. I'm not exaggerating. That's about how big the welt on my chin is going to be. So, I may avoid the camera for a little bit. It's not it's actually not the first time that's happened. Um, I've had a few ingrowns that are just ridiculous. I had one inside of my cheek that was about that long. You may be wondering about that. I tend to be well. I've learned a lot of different ways to avoid people observing facial hair on me over the years. From I mean, right now I'm relying on the lighting, right? If I'm going somewhere, I'm going to be relying on makeup. I can't afford it. Maybe I could afford it, but it's not. It maybe should be a higher priority. I wasn't planning on living that long, to be honest with you. When I moved down here, I was focusing on the music. I thought maybe I'd kill myself before I got done, because I didn't really expect to get a renewal on my ODSP, and I didn't really. I mean, if wiping the hair off my face requires working for 10 hours a day doing something I don't care about, then I'll deal with the hair on my face. It's not something I like, but the alternatives, I'll deal with it eventually. Right now, it's not my biggest concern. And I mean, electrolysis doesn't fix that. If anything, electrolysis would make that worse. I've got ingrown issues. I got to deal with it. It creates a giant mess on my face once in a while, and it goes away in a few days. So, but I mean, there's going to be a giant welt on my chin for a while. I'm not sure if I'm going to upload this or not. If I do, yeah, I may be off camera for, well, I mean, I think of, well, no, I was on the other day. I was on yesterday. I mean, if I'm in the, generally, if I'm in the other room, I'm not avoiding the camera. I'm just talking about the computer, so I'm going to point it at the computer. It's not like conscious avoidance, it just is. But for the next few days, I might be consciously avoiding because, yeah, I can start to see the, I kid you not, it's nasty. But I mean, that had to get out, so that fucker, it's gone. So it's 1:15, and this is flat stable. This is the first time it's been flat stable, and the difference seems to be that damn plug. Like I say, I'm not fucking with things right now. If it's stable, it's stable, good. Let me work this through, and then worry about reconstructing things afterwards. But from what I can tell, the problem wasn't it wasn't really the drivers, it was the plug. It's 3 o'clock, and the device is behaving properly still. I got some outs. Well, the device and the headphone jack, I guess, I suppose. It sounds good. It sounds the way it's supposed to sound, which is quite similar to the it has the higher pitch, but it also has a lower pitch, so they're both there. I'm fading out. I'm not operating properly. I've been half asleep for a bit, so I wanted to make sure I got the outs on this while the thing is functioning properly, so that I can compare it to what I had on the ups. I mean, I have every expectation they'll be identical, but just to verify that, I think I should be in a good position to take a rather hefty leap forward tomorrow in jumping up to the 9th track, but I'll have to verify that when I wake up.